Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey vet rehabbers, today I'm chatting with Kellie about her journey into veterinary rehabilitation, and I love how real and honest this conversation is. She started out as a vet nurse, slowly building up her rehab work bit by bit, increasing her days, gaining confidence, and figuring out what she really wanted. And then she took a big leap. She opened her own practice just 2 doors down from the rehab facility she was working at. And even though looking back, she'll tell you she probably wasn't financially ready at the time, she did it anyway, and it paid off. So fast forward to now, she's grown her practice to the point where she's hiring her first assistant, looking forward to having some company after running solo for the last 2 years, and finally planning a well-deserved holiday. This is a really inspiring conversation, and it talks about imperfect action, trusting the process, and building something on your own, even when it feels a little bit scary. So before we head over to that conversation, I want to say a huge thank you to @roaming_rehab_vet_physio for the shout out on Instagram. Thank you so much. Please reach out to me at meg@onlinepethealth.com. I'd love to gift you a limited edition veterinary rehabilitation podcast mug. And lastly, I just want to have a word from our sponsors. Founded by Dr. Beate Egner, the Veterinary Academy of Higher Learning is shaping the future of veterinary rehabilitation worldwide. VAL stands for Evidence-Based Education, Global Collaboration, and Real Clinical Impact. Our mission is simple but powerful, turning science into practical skills. With programs offered worldwide and in multiple languages, VAL helps clinicians combine scientific insight with hands-on expertise so patients move better, recover faster, and live healthier lives. Flagship certifications include the Certified Canine Rehabilitation Practitioner, or CCRP, Certified Equine Rehabilitation Practitioner, or CERP, and Certified Canine Fitness Trainer, also known as the CCFT programs. They're all developed by the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, which is not only considered the birthplace of evidence-based animal rehabilitation, but also the host of this year's IAVRPT Symposium. To explore VAL globally, you can visit val.vet and follow VAL on Instagram @val.vet. Right, over to my chat with Kellie. Hey, Kellie, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Megan. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
For the listeners, won't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field of vet rehab?
Yeah, so I started as a veterinary nurse, and I did about 4 to 5 years in that before, the general practice clinic I was working for did, de-Angelus repairs on, dogs under 10 kilos. And, you see them coming back at that 14, 16-week mark. And we've had quite a few of these come through the clinic with the same response from the owners saying, oh, I thought they'd be a bit better by now, and they've spent this money and their dog's still limping and they're disheartened. And it just got that sort of the cogs turning in my brain thinking, why isn't this an option for dogs? And then I just happened to go to a local veterinary hospital reopening. They opened a brand new clinic, and one of the anaesthetists there spoke briefly on the tour when I did the tour of the practice about their rehab sector that they wanted to open. So then I approached him at the end of the opening night and sort of said, where can I study this? Because Australia is very limited with what we have in terms of resources. It's still quite niche over here. So he put me on to the University of Tennessee, and that was that.
Yeah, so I'm also a University of Tennessee graduate. So did you fly to the States or did you do your course in Australia?
Oh, no, everything was here. So I did have to go to Queensland because I'm right down south near Melbourne. So I flew up north for my practical placement, and then did an externship, luckily just north of Melbourne. So yeah, that was all pretty smooth sailing. But yes, it's hard when you feel very alone in that distant sort of learning environment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially because, I mean, how long ago was that? When did you do it? What year?
Oh, I started back in 2019, so there were setbacks with the practical because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, yeah, only wrapped it up properly start of last year. So, yeah.
And it's such a growing field still, but there are so many places and, areas in certain countries where there is no one, there are no colleagues at all. It's just you. So
Yes.
hopefully we're growing and, you'll start to get some colleagues around you too. Kelly, let's chat about, so you got your CCRP. Tell us a little bit about how you then started to use that in practice. Were you working then still as a vet nurse, and did you just try and incorporate it into the current practice you were at?
So I suppose, given once again, it is very niche in Australia, even as far as vets practicing it or rehab in general. So it was a bit hard to integrate into an already existing practice. But fortunately, I was quite familiar with, or one of my good friends is a vet at a local practice, and I sort of flagged the idea with her, oh, I could rent a room and just do some rehab consults of myself. Um, Based off your referral and some other referrals, and so I got a few cases a week through there on my one day off while I did my 4 days a week nursing, and yeah, that's sort of how it all started.
Yeah, and now we looked where we are today. Describe what
Yeah, I know.
it's like now.
Yeah, so now there's a veterinary hospital 2 doors down, so a referral centre that have, the ECC department, the surgery department, and internal medicine department. And there's a small warehouse space that opened up for lease a couple doors down a couple of years ago. And I thought, oh, that's a great place to set up a practice. Not that it was sort of at the forefront of my mind, but and I probably wasn't ready, admittedly, but I thought that's a great location. It's self-advertising, being right next to the referral centre. So I was working for the referral centre at the time, and then sort of jumped into query the lease about the place. And then in October 2024, that's when I officially took the keys and then built it up to what is now a 50 to 55 dogs per week. I think when I answered those sort of questions a while ago, it was 30 to 35, and it is now 50 to 55 patients a week.
Wow.
So very, very busy, open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, and have just hired my first employee. So yeah, it's gone from 4 or 5 dogs a week to 55 dogs a week, which is I couldn't even fathom that. So yeah.
And what a strategic advantage to be so close to the referral center, but actually not
Mm.
part of them, right? So this is one of the things where it's tricky. Sometimes, if you're a part of a vet practice, then you only get referrals from that area, not from anywhere else. But if you've got your own standalone, then you're going to get referrals from everyone. Do you find, because of your proximity now to this referral center, do you find that affects your referrals, or are people still referring to you from other vets?
Yeah, so I do get a lot of external referrals. It's not just from the hospital. So yeah, I do get quite an array of various patients being referred, and some of them that are seeing this other vet that performs this acupuncture and other treatments does refer to me just for hydrotherapy. So there's that sort of advantage as well. Sometimes it's nice just to have a patient that comes in because they already have their plan set up. Takes the pressure off you sometimes if you've had a busy week. But yeah, I find that I'm very fortunate to still get quite a lot of external referrals that aren't just from the hospital. I suppose they can still be classed as an external referral because I'm not associated with them, but technically am located right next door. So yeah, it's been very fortunate, and that was a big consideration when I was setting it up. Financially, yes, it's a big strain. And, everyone was saying, oh, well, ask the owner of the hospital, they'll be able to fund some. But that was the whole point is, they'll reap the benefits later, not yourself. So Not that it's about the money necessarily, but yeah, it's been very rewarding to know that I've built this from the ground myself as well.
Yeah, but listen, and it's an advantage for them, for you being there too, because
Mm.
they're not offering themselves, but there is a service that they need for their patients, and it's two doors down. So I think it's a win-win, both of you guys being there.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's chat about, so you're getting a lot of referrals. Are you doing any other marketing, or right now is that not really required?
It's not required, which has been a huge blessing actually, because when I set it up, I needed a number of, I think it was 15 to 17 patients per week to meet my outgoings and my payments and my loans and things. And I was going from 4 or 5 dogs per week at this vet clinic in this little room. So it was a big jump to have to suddenly acquire 15 to 17 dogs a week. So I thought that I was going to have to reach out to all the local vet clinics and make myself familiar to those who weren't familiar with me already. But I have only just gotten busier and busier quite steadily. And then since going full time for myself in October last year, it's just been quite booked out. And then from December last year, I've been booked out a couple of weeks in advance, 6 days a week. So there's almost a need to put a break on and say some no to new patients almost, which I couldn't fathom the thought of. But sometimes it's getting to the point where I think, oh, is that necessary?
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how when you open the space up to have more patients, they just come? I mean, I must say, I definitely in my practice felt that. And I remember, I was doing some locum work as a vet on top of my rehab as I was building it, and I remember being so nervous to stop the locum work because that was, helping to fund
Mm.
it. And then just deciding, okay, I'm just going to do it. And literally, as soon as I did it, it just, organically grew. And it's sort of like you just saying to the universe, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm opening up the space, and then it just comes and then it fills up, right?
It's amazing, yeah. So I sort of weaned out my days at the hospital while I accrued more days working for myself. And for far too long, I think for the social aspect as well, because I am working by myself, so it gets a bit lonely. But I held on to those days at the hospital because it meant that I was, fully diving in, and I still had that, even though it was minimal at the time, getting down to 1 day, 2 day sort of days at the hospital, I still had that consistent income from there. It wasn't solely relying on myself to bring everything through the door. But like you said, it just organically grew and has become what it is at the moment, which is just crazy busy, and I can't keep on top of it sometimes. So
Let's chat about those feelings, the feelings of when you had to make that move, because it's always like so scary. You have this like surety when you're getting a certain amount, and even if it wasn't like if it's 1 or 2 days, you just know that money I'm getting. And there's this strange, thought, what happens if all of this stops and no clients come? And then I'm like liable for everything. Chat us through your feelings and like how it actually differed, like all the things that you were so worried about and then how that actually was different to how it actually happened.
I suppose, yeah, I maybe the social aspect is what I was hanging on to more because I suppose in the workplace I'm a bit extroverted when I'm an extroverted introvert maybe. So I do like to sit on the couch in my little cozy corner, but I think I was holding on to the social aspect, and I still enjoy the chats with the clients that I am close with, but I do still at the end of the day pop down and say hello. So that's still nice, and I'm still in touch with them all. But in terms of, yeah, taking that leap and being solely responsible for myself and that feeling so scary, I think it was such a relief to not have the days at the hospital to do at the end of a really busy week here because I was seeing potentially about 30 dogs in the space of 3 to 4 days. And then, if I had leftover patient notes to write, like a few that I didn't get to the night before, or something to clean, or this or that, I'd be straight back into my 10-hour days at the hospital, which felt pretty strenuous. I think it was a bit of a relief to actually have everything focused on the business. And I think when I was still at the hospital and I was just doing my 3 or 4 days here and not fully committing, it felt like something on the side still. So maybe not as serious and maybe not as scary. And I sort of kept it at bay, not being a full business maybe by having the days at the hospital, but then, jumping fully into it and accepting it as a business and as a responsibility, I suppose makes you more accountable for it. And I guess, better in your day to day because you've got all your attention here. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much easier to focus when you're doing one thing. So that like
Yeah.
divided, like you think it's okay, but actually when you take that step and then suddenly all your focus is in one place, it's probably why it just suddenly has just blown up and grown because you've been focusing on the right things. So
Mm.
let's chat about when you set up the practice. So back in 2024, did you have to get a loan? Did you have savings? Like, how did you decide what equipment you were going to buy? Because you've got an underwater treadmill. What other equipment have you got?
So I have an MVet Class 4 laser. So that was sort of half of the price of the K laser and the companion laser, which, I probably would have could preferred the companion at the time, but I had to be realistic. I didn't have a whole lot of savings. And I'll be quite honest with you, Megan, I don't think I was financially ready. I was very, very fortunate that my dad had gone into retirement, and I had talked about this idea of building a business myself for quite a while. And he, as a business owner himself, was urging me and pushing me along on the way because he's been a bit of a workaholic his whole life. And he actually provided me a loan at a much lower interest rate to the bank. So I was really fortunate in that regard. To, I suppose, yeah, have that uh, generous offer and it be much more affordable. It's still quite a lot of outgoings with, the rent of the building and other day-to-day expenses. But it is much more manageable than what the bank would have charged me with interest. So in saying that, I purchased my hydrophysio treadmill, and then I've got my laser, and then I did buy a few little bits of equipment through FitPaws. Um, but I've sort of made some DIY little platforms and other bits and pieces too. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to get a loan because sometimes that is like the thing that holds us back when we want to open a clinic is trying to get the bank to loan us the money, right? And I know so many vet rehabbers who I've interviewed that, they've wanted to start their practices like 2 years before they actually did. And that was how long it took them to get the loan.
Wow.
So so it's great. And I think also for you, if I put myself in your shoes, you had someone believing in you, right? Believing in you, you can do this. So your dad gave you that too. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, being a business owner himself, he was very much a big cheerleader in that process. So yeah, like I said, not everyone's going to be in that fortunate position, but I don't take for granted how fortunate I am to have had that opportunity because I probably would not have been able to do it for a good period of time. So like I said, I probably wasn't ready financially, or maybe could have got a few things together first. But it's been a great dive in the deep end and still learning along the way. But yeah.
Listen, I think a lot of us aren't when we start our practices. We just desperately want to have the practice and we just take the leap. And yeah, for
Yes.
most of us, it does work out. So okay, so now you've hired somebody else. You've got somebody to help you. Chat to me about like how you see that going forward. Because obviously right now you're just wearing all the hats, right? You're the therapist, the practice manager, the bookkeeper, the everything, right? Or do you have
Mm.
anyone helping you with admin?
My husband is great. He does all my zero reconciliation, but and business advice and accounting advice. He loves all the numbers. But no, I do wear all of the hats pretty much. I'm also the cleaner. I don't even have anyone to sort of help me clean. So I was here for an hour cleaning before I jumped on here with yourself. But yeah, no, I wear all the hats.
And how's this new therapist going to help you?
So I couldn't manage the caseload, admittedly. 50 to 55 dogs a week was, realistically, I can't work 6 days a week every single week. Seeing patients, that is, I will always be working most days, the admin and whatever else, all those hats. But I suppose I do need to allocate myself those admin days, which I was quite bad at. And then it was filling up my cup a lot and spilling over the edge and spilling over the edge. So she has taken on board a day and a half currently. I already feel like I could probably put her on some more.
Yeah.
But I think my idea would be to expand and take a vet or a physiotherapist on board and try and have a diverse team, because I think the more angles you can approach things from, the better. So that's the hopes and dreams. But I think for now, yeah, just taking it one employee at a time.
And now, obviously, you opened in, was it October 2024? Have you had a holiday since then?
I actually went to the Star Conference last year. So my husband and I made a big trip out of that. He's got Irish heritage. So we went to Ireland and then we flew over to New York and popped into New Jersey for the conference after that. So that was our last holiday. That was like in April last year. So yeah, but not since then.
Hopefully, with the new edition now, you can maybe take a few days off or take a week here or there and have a little bit of a holiday.
Yes, it's funny. My own osteo, it was a first appointment with him the other day. He owns the practice, and he said the best advice I can give you as a business owner is book holidays. So I'm still learning how to do that and how to take time off. But certainly, hopefully, now that I have someone that I can trust and rely on, I can get away a little bit more.
Do you have a social media presence at all? Have you got Facebook or Instagram, TikTok?
I'm terrible on social media. I'm terrible on social media of my own personal life. I struggled with setting Facebook up at the time. I am on Instagram, which tends to get a bit of traction. I don't have the time for TikTok videos. I'll put my hand up and say that now. It takes me 2 hours to do an Instagram post sometimes. I find the social media very tricky and exhausting.
Yeah, it is, but it is important. Because what happens is in the beginning when you first set up, and speaking to so many vet rehabbers, this is like the same story over and over again, is that you start and you're the first one, right? And then somebody up opens up down the road from you, and then you do have to have some way of marketing. So hopefully one of your maybe your new vet nurse is someone who could do social media. So if you get an opportunity, try and get somebody into that position and start building your social media a little bit. Although you don't really need it now to get new clients, at some stage you might. And if you have the advantage of having a much bigger following, you're going to be able to use that to your advantage marketing wise to get more new clients.
Yeah, no, that is correct. It won't be niche forever, so I should certainly consider that more. But yes, I think what I didn't mention before, but something else I would like to do is hire some admin to take on, um, all the admin load that I have, whether that be booking clients, responding to text messages and emails, liaising with vets and grabbing histories and that sort of thing. So that could certainly be an additional task. I'm just gradually adding to the list and making sure that it is going to be financially worth it and that sort of consideration as well. Yeah.
Then all you do is just send them all the videos. So you take the
Yeah.
videos, send it to them because that's what takes so long, right? The editing.
Yes. 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 I'm actually quite good at taking all the videos while I'm treating the patients. I've just got my tripod and I'll very discreetly quickly whack it up. It's the putting together of the videos and oh my gosh, it's very painful.
I hear you. I hear you. And,
Yeah.
and and I think one of the worst things is spending so much time creating it. You think, wow, this is the best video I've created. Like people are gonna love this. And then you put it out there and nothing. You get like 100 and
Mm.
something that you're like, I just
Hmm.
wait for that time, right?
Yeah.
No, I know the feelings. We have the same. I have the same thing. I've got a few Instagram pages, and my daughter's actually got one for her horse riding, And she's so cute. I mean, she'll edit these and she'll put music and everything. And she's so excited to put it out there. And then she'll say, let's see how my post is doing. And then she'll be so disappointed. And then there'll be one that she's hardly
Oh,
even put any effort into, like just some random like thing of her just like washing her pony and drinking water from the hose pipe. And then it'll get like thousands and thousands of views, the one that she just randomly
wow.
posts. You just never know. But it
It's
is good.
unpredictable.
Very much so, very much so. Is there anything, if you look back at your journey, is there anything that you would have done different?
I mean, it probably would have taken a bit of that stress early on financially. It would have taken a bit of the stress off if I had maybe waited until I was a little bit more ready on that side of things. But I have been very fortunate. Um, in terms of doing things differently, I try not to think too much about that because if I think about stuff that I regret, it's just going to make you annoyed with the present sort of thing. Um, so in terms of things that I would have done differently, nothing that I can really think of off the top of my head apart from maybe waiting until I was a slight bit more ready. But are you ever ready?
That's
Are you
good.
ever fully ready? I suppose it might be, I don't have children, but it might be like, everyone says about having children. Are you ever ready to be a parent? Are you ever ready to be a business owner? I don't think so.
I don't think there's any place, even if you'd had savings and more savings and you'd used them, there's still that horrible feeling about losing it. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that financial stress and I don't think there's ever a time where it's okay. Unless you're a multi millionaire, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that if it's
Yeah.
just
So
like
the
pocket money that
financial aspect. Yeah. So yes, the financial aspect, but also was I ready to take on the mental load and capacity of a business and that sort of thing. But then, like I said, once again, you're never going to be ready. And I think it's much more of a ginormous task than I thought, but still getting through day by day and being really successful. So that's a win.
So what are the plans for the future?
More holidays. More holidays. I suppose, and feel free to give me advice on this one. I want to try and remain independent, but I suppose I'm limited with the space that I have in my clinic. It's quite an open floor plan. So there's no divided rooms, so meaning you can only treat one patient at a time. So that would be sort of a goal within the next 6 months to put like a divider up to divide the hydrotherapy space from the treatment space so that could potentially have two running at once. But then I also am really, really passionate about the inpatient care for the patients at the hospital next door. They hospitalize a lot of spine patients post-operatively, and the FCE patients as well. And they sort of sit for a week in hospital without appropriate rehab. And I'm sort of very passionate about educating the owners on that discharge appointment of what they can do, because I've seen a lot of patients myself down here at my practice, where the owner's been at home for 3 weeks not knowing what they're doing, and they haven't been able to get their dog to even support its own weight. They weren't aware that they were allowed to do that. So it'd be really, really, I suppose, fulfilling to me if I could eventually treat the inpatients down at the hospital and have some sort of rehabilitation discharge, obviously liaising with the surgeons and the residents there. But, coming to some sort of agreement on that and a treatment plan that's clearly communicated to the owner at the discharge so that they feel more comfortable, because I feel they do a very brief discharge currently, but it's sort of brushed over as there's medications, there's sometimes bladder care, there's all those different umbrella of things following, neurological with neurological discharges. So yeah, I think that's sort of been at the forefront of my mind since working with them and seeing just how many neurological patients they hospitalise. That would be a great goal of mine to be able to assist the inpatients and make sure they're getting that rehab from day dot.
You should probably chat to the referral center and see if there's an opportunity that you could do in-house treatments. So when I had my practice, I used to go, it was far. I had to drive about an hour to the referral center, but I used to go 2 mornings a week and I would just go and treat in hospital cases. And then they would just have a like a blanket in hospital, like physio, basically treatment. And I would get 70% of that, and the hospital would get 30% of that. And so they would just
Okay.
calculate the special code, and at the end of the day, they would just calculate how many patients are treated, and their accountant would just print it out, and then at the end of the month, I would just get my payments. But I think what was so beneficial there is that chatting to the vet nurses that were there, I used to be able to show them things, and then they used to also sometimes introduce me to the clients. So when I was there, there'd be discharges happening, and there would be patients that I treated earlier on in the week that are being discharged, and they would say, "Can you just quickly pop your head in?" And I would pop my head in and introduce myself, and that would be a great way to just build that relationship with them. And
Mm.
then on all their discharge notes, right at the bottom, there used to be information about me and my practice. And they would be able to see on the invoice that I'd already treated. And the referring vets and vets that were there say, your dog had in-house physio. This is what they did. And so it was already established then that this is what needs to be done. And those tricky cases that I needed to speak to the owner about. So, say, for example, like an FCE case that was really bad, and the owners were coming to fetch them, and there was so much information that I needed to share with them about the environments and things like that. When I was there, I would just phone them, and sometimes even from my practice, I'd have the client's number, and I would say, "This is who I am. I treated your dog in hospital. Just wanted to chat through some things, and if you'd like a follow-up, this is where I am." So it was just really a great way in which to introduce myself and infiltrate. And I really did actually still feel part of the practice. And I think that you have such an advantage that you used to work there, you know everyone. So in order to be able to do that, first of all, for them, the practice, it's hugely beneficial because it sets them apart that they've got an in-house physio, and they're actually gaining something from it, as well as you. So, and I think most of the time, to be honest, for the vet practice, they don't really. I mean, I remember that vet actually said to me, "Don't worry, you can just have 100%." And I said, "No, I'd feel better about the 70-30 splits." But he didn't actually mind about the income. I mean, he was making enough doing the op, but for him, he loved it because he felt like he was giving that extra care. So yeah, I really think that you should sit down with them and yeah, have a chat and just see how you can work it. And that the nurse now that's coming to work for you, one of you every day could be there for 2, 3 hours, however long it takes. You could have that in your schedule, that in the morning you go, that's where you go straight there, sort out the in-hospital cases, and then start consulting.
Mm. Okay. How did you differentiate between the patients that did and didn't get it? Was it an option at admission before surgery, or was it a standard thing?
So for them, they just had a standard fee. So when they used to quote for their ops, it was including in-house physio afterwards. So they just included
Okay.
it. So he decided it's in his patient's best interest to have that physio. And so yeah, it was just quoted. It was part of the quote. And if they were insured, the insurance would pay for that as part of the surgery too. So yeah, I never had anyone who said they didn't want, so so all the owners were told, this is what's happening. Tomorrow the physio is coming to, and I think for a lot of the owners, actually, that's so normal because if you think about in a hospital, like for people, when you go and have surgery, the physio comes, right? And so that's such a
Mm.
normal thing after a surgery for the physio to come. So just
Yeah.
none of them questioned it. But the strange thing is that if it's not happening in hospital, and then you're saying now you must go to physio, sometimes there's that disconnect and then it doesn't happen. So sometimes
Yeah.
those patients don't actually get it. But when you're introduced in hospital to having the physio, the client is right away then, this is part of my dog's recovery. And they just sort of it just happens. And then they think, well, I got to carry on with this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what will also be advantageous to the patients that are coming down here, you know, 12, 13 weeks sometimes post TPLO and you're starting on the back foot, hopefully keep that continuity once they're discharged, and continue the outpatient care from that significantly earlier period in time in the recovery, would be ideal.
I also got a lot of teleconsults, and this was like way, way before COVID.
Wow.
I used to use Skype, back in the
Oh,
day when Zoom hadn't
wow.
been built yet. Like I used to use Skype consults. And so like people would come and have ops and then I would speak to them and they would then book in follow-ups in the day that I was going to be there. And in between I would have Skype consults, which they used to pay for, and give them exercises and tell and ask them to do this, and I would ask them to check the proprioception, and remember I showed you
Mm,
how to do that. And yeah, so there's opportunity actually to help people further. um, if there was a rehab therapist that was close to them, I would refer to them, but this was now, I'm talking now 2010 or so, and they were literally
mm.
like two or three of us in the whole of South Africa at that time.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there was just no one. And so, for me, I just wanted to help every animal that I could. And so, yeah, just found a way on Skype. So, teleconsults is also like, or like online consults is something that you could also do, with those patients if they're from far away. Or they come in for a checkup and then they come and see you and you can do an assessment. Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say to you, when I just remember you talking about like your big room, like don't be scared to put up drywalls and things like that. It feels like a huge investment for a space that you don't own and that you rent. But I mean, for example, with my practice, I literally got them to agree and I paid for everything. I knocked down walls and I renovated a property that I did not own, like completely. I
Wow.
touched the place, and it was scary because it was such a huge investment to do, but my practice would never have grown to what it had if I hadn't, if I tried to just use what I had. So it was definitely worth it. So yeah, drywalling and just making another consult room um, is definitely going to be to your benefit, especially if there are two of you. And then you know how it is that you can't actually treat, like if there's a dog in the underwater treadmill and you've got another dog in the same room, they're distracted and you just can't get them to relax and there's just too much noise. And yeah, so definitely consider putting up some drywalls to increase the space and the number of places where you can consult so you can double up. Because as soon as you start doubling up, that's when your practice actually really starts to take off because you're
Mm.
max your space and you're earning two different incomes in the same space compared to one where you try and fit it in. And then I also think it just saves you because otherwise you're just working such long hours and such long days. If you
Mm.
double up, you can have shorter days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we could already have more than the 50 dogs in per week, because we want, there's certain clients that are happy to come that twice a week, but we don't have the availability. So, yeah, certainly it sort of speaks for itself, doesn't it? That worth the investment. But yes, it is quite a costly process, and there's probably permits required. But yes, probably worth it in the long run.
Definitely. Kelly, if you've got one piece of advice to give someone that's just starting off in their vet rehab career, what would it be?
If you are passionate enough and you've got that drive, you just have to push through those really, really hard days and all that self-doubt.
Mm.
Because I suppose my story is a great example. I only had that 5 dogs per week, and didn't feel that I was ready, didn't feel that I was capable of being a business owner whatsoever. But I think my passion for what we do, has ultimately got me to where I am. Floating above water or not, I'm still navigating the crazy busyness, and how quickly it's come on. But I don't think I would have gotten here without that drive. So if you've got it, you just have to keep pushing through those really, really hard days and sometimes weeks where it feels a bit much, or whatever obstacles get put in your way. Because if you're passionate enough, you'll get there and it'll all work itself out in the end, as it is still working itself out for me. But I'm very, very grateful that I see the number of dogs that I do a week, and I am so fortunate enough to help the amount of dogs that I do as well. So, which is what it's all about and what I wanted to do. And if you go back to that initial story where I was concerned for these dogs that weren't doing so well, 12, 14 weeks post-operatively, well, I'm now helping those dogs. So that's what it was all about.
Yeah, and I think that self-doubt we all have. And it's so easy to see people who've gotten to the place where, like you, like a successful practice, seeing 50 dogs a week, and you think like, I wish I could be there. All of those people have gone through such a journey of self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, all of that. So if you're feeling that, I promise you, you're not alone. Don't think that you wish it was like that and you think that that person hasn't gone through that. We all go through it. There are ups and downs. And let me tell you, when I had my practice and my practice was thriving and I had a 3-week waiting list, even in those moments where everything was great and I mean, I was successful, if everyone else looked at it, I had moments where I thought, oh my gosh, I think somebody else should be looking at this patient. I'm sure there's someone better than me, and am I the right person to see this patient? And so all this, there's always doubts, even when you seem like you're rocking it and you're successful. You have these ups and downs. So like there definitely are imposter moments that come through for whatever reason. Or somebody will just say something, or you'll be nervous to like say send a report to another vet, and the vet will phone and ask you a question and you think, oh gosh, did I do something wrong? And then for the rest of the day you have all these imposter moments. So these things happen. We all just got to keep going and keep pushing through it. And as you say, like if you've got the passion and drive, you know what you're doing it for. It's for the animals, and you just keep pushing through.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Megan. It's and that imposter syndrome. I think a lot of us feel it, but yeah, I suppose another thing that's helped me with my imposter syndrome, which it still floats up day to day, but surround yourself with a good community of people that you can bounce off, and feel like you can reach out to discuss those tricky ones, because there'll always be those ones that pop up. And especially me being a veterinary nurse, I do have another CCRP vet that's an hour away from me, who we meet up and make regular plans to meet up, and I refer to her for shockwave and other things like that and other modalities, and we have a great line of communication, and they give advice to me on those tricky cases where I'm out of my depth. So it's good if you surround yourself with a community of people, if you're fortunate enough to have people close to you or that you can reach out to via message or email as well. That's another good piece of advice to sort of counteract that imposter syndrome that you feel, which is inevitably going to come up at points, but it's really helped myself. Yeah.
Great advice. And if you're an online pet health member, we have a mentorship program. So if you're an online pet health member, you get access to mentors, whether they are for clinical or for business. So yeah, definitely having someone that you can bounce things off, especially because it is a lonely existence in vet rehab, because
Mm.
they're more one-man practices than they are multi-man practices or multi-woman practices, shall we say,
Yeah.
in some cases. Yeah, so it is lonely, but having someone, and it's so easy now with WhatsApp and all the technology that we have, so
Mm.
easy, just send a video to a colleague and just say, hey, just want a second opinion, just what do you think, this is what I'm thinking, am I on the right track? And just to get somebody to, yeah, just verify what you're saying, or even just prevent you from having tunnel vision. Sometimes we have that. So
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Mm.
Kelly, it's been so lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. And yeah, just wishing you all the best of luck. And we'll definitely have to do a follow-up, I think, in a year's time or so, and just see where
Oh,
you're at.
yeah. Thank you so much, Megan. I mean, yeah, scary thing where it will be, but also very exciting. Hopefully, I'll have that room built, and yeah, we'll continue to soar. But yeah, thank you for having me. It's been very lovely to chat with you, and understand that even people like yourself have imposter syndrome. So, yeah,
Thanks, Kelly. Take care. Bye.
no worries. Thanks, Megan. Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, the Veterinary Academy of Higher Learning, also known as VAL. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free. So go and check them out at val.vet. Don't forget to bookmark the next year's Vet Rehab Summit on Saturday, the 31st of October, 2026. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.